Hi folks, it's Jack Spirko with another survival podcast video. Today I am going to do a video for you on the Kelly Kettle. This is something I just found out about from a listener. It's a pretty cool device. Let me show you what we got going on here. I do have it actually full of water already just to save time on the video. Normally you wouldn't pack it that way, so I'm going to be a little bit careful about the way that I remove it. Make sure I don't spill it, even though it does have a cork. Go ahead and separate it from the base. That's the Kelly Kettle. Here's all the little goodies that store in with it. We'll get to some of these later. The important thing is all of this stuff actually packs and fits up into the bottom of the Kelly Kettle. This is a little cooking kit. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. But this, let's put this somewhere it won't blow away. This is our little fire pot. This is what we're actually going to build our fire in. And you may wonder why, what's so special about the Kelly Kettle? Well, this looks like a really large kettle, and it's pretty big. This is the largest one they make. It holds 1.7 liters of water. But, let's see, hopefully the cork will hold. See that? It's all hollow on the middle. The water is all in a double jacketed wall around the outside. This one is made of stainless steel and is the most expensive model they make. It's the largest one and the only model available in stainless steel. Sells for about $95, and with the entire kit about $115. They go down in price from there, down from about $90 down to about $60 with just the kettles, and from $115 I think down to about $80 with the full kits. Every model other than this one is made out of aluminum, and if you're going to use it often, I have a little bit of a concern with aluminum from a health point. So I would prefer, if you're going to use it often, a stainless steel model. But what this really is, if you look at it, we've got a little hole here in our fire pot, and we want to point that toward the wind. And we set this up on top of it. We have our little fire going in there. What we've really got there is a rocket stove. It's exactly the same principles as a rocket stove. We got an intake, we got a riser, we've got our column heating up and causing secondary combustion. But the difference is, instead of putting something on top of it, which we can actually do with the cook kit, but with the Kelly Kettle, to boil water, which is something you often want to do when you're out camping or in a situation where you're without power or what have you, instead of trying to boil all the water from underneath, the water's completely surrounding the flame, so it burns and it actually boils amazingly fast. We'll actually be timing it. I'll use my iPhone to time it once we start the fire and get going, and that's pretty much all we got to do here. Now, the cool thing is you don't just boil water with the Kelly Kettle. You also can cook with it, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and build a fire. I'm not going to use any man-made kindling, so to speak. I'm going to use a nice big bunch of dry grass I got here, and then some small twigs. And you don't have to get all the stuff you're going to burn. In fact, that's not the way to do it at all in at the beginning, because you can add more material through the top. So I think that'll be enough to get us up and running. And then I can explain the other stuff to you while we're waiting for our kettle to boil. Now, never boil the kettle with the cork installed. You want to make sure you turn that off. And it's actually pointing that way. And the little bit of breeze we do have today is coming from the direction of the camera, so that should work well. So let's go ahead and get a fire going here. That dry grass should go right up, and it is. Now, as I was saying, this is basically a rocket stove. So, get my iPhone out so I can time this. And I guess we're cheating a little bit, but we can figure out about how much time it's run. Got the stopwatch running on the iPhone. And what we want to do again is keep this going. Now, I've got a nice little pile of sticks here, but with this little pile, if I was going to build a conventional campfire, and I told you I was going to make myself a cup of tea, you might think, well, if you're boiling less than 1.7 liters of water like you're trying to do here, you could probably pull that off. But if I said I was also going to cook myself some red beans and rice with sausage, you'd probably tell me, Jack, you're going to need a little bit more Then this little bitty scraps of wood you got here. Now, the good thing about the wind direction, I got it right. Got the airflow coming in, but I'm also getting the smoke in the face, so we got to move here. Anyway, and I should have thought of that. It's one of those dumb moments we got. So now we've got, and if you could hear this, if I had the camera woman with me today, you could hear this. We've got that whoosh sound that you get from a rocket stove, and we're just going like crazy. Now, there's an old saying that a watch pot never boils. And I believe that's true, and I don't believe you want to sit here and wait for it to boil. So I'm going to pause the camera, and when it's boiling, it'll come back. I'll tell you how long it took, and I'll demonstrate the way that you actually get this thing off of the fire. Because if you were to pick it up with your hand over there, you'd burn your hand. So there's a way that you use the handle to do that. We'll make a cup of tea. We'll add some more water back to it, and we'll cook up some red beans and rice. Okay, well, I'm back, and it was 4 minutes and 35 seconds. You can see I definitely got a boil. It's actually boiling over. And that is because of the time it took me to go turn the camera on once the boil started. But you can see the way that I picked it up. You hold the handle 90 degrees off of your burn spot, your burn pot, and pick it straight up. And after that, you can carry it in a more conventional manner. I've got a little tea bag in my teacup here. So I'm going to have myself a spot of tea, as the Brits would say. And the way that you pour your kettle is you hold your lid, you take this little chain with the cork, and we'll just go ahead and pour ourselves. So, you know, that's making a cup of tea, and basically that's anything you would do just to boil water and add water to it would come out the same way. But I want to make some red beans and rice. What I did, about half of this stuff, Zanderan's red beans and rice. I love this, love a lot of other things like this. I used to make what I call cheater trail food. I split them in half, packed them in Mylar with an O2 absorber, and just seal them with an iron and use those as trail food. I cut them in half because you're usually cooking with smaller things like this pot here, and it's really enough for one person, so if not everybody's hungry, you can always add more. My coals are still nice and hot here. I'll have to get this up and going again. But to speed this up, instead of just putting water in it and cooking it on top of the cook pot, what I'm going to do is use some of this boiling hot water. And I got to do this by eye. I won't be measuring in the field, but I know it needs about 1.5 cups, which is about that much. So now, and I really should be holding that 90 degrees, but since the fire's down, I know I can do that safely. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to get this fire up and running again. Let's get some more twigs and whatnot. I also want to refill my Kelly Kettle, which I really should have done first. We'll just do it here. You never want to run the kettle empty. That's a little bit over full, but it'll work. Anyway, this kettle never needs to be run empty. So we'll get a good fire going again. Now I could be heating up this water to make some more tea, or to provide drinking water if the water wasn't clean enough for drinking straight, or what have you. That should be enough. Take my little pot stand. And this little gadget here works as a handle. We'll set that in the pot stand. And we can begin cooking our red beans and rice. And they're going to a simmer right away. And I can do that right up until the water starts to boil in the Kelly Kettle. And I'll come back when that happens and show you what you need to do next. Okay, so that's gone right back to a boil, and I should point out, I might even let it see if it goes far enough to do this, or it might happen while I'm doing it anyway. If you let it overboil, it'll shoot out about that far and it could scald you, so you need to really pay attention to where that's pointing. Here we go with an overboil. Let's go ahead and prevent that from happening so I can show you the next level of cooking you can do with this. So we have our red beans and rice there. There was our overboil. 90 degrees. Move it over to the side. But now, what we're going to want to do, we got one slightly annoying piece of wood there. We got this nice little bed of coals going. So what we can do now is add our little grill grates. I guess this thing serves more than one function. Well, full disclosure, this part is a little more difficult than the guy made it look that runs the company. But got that. So now we've got that going, we can continue to simmer our red beans and rice. And now I'm going to add my special ingredient that you wouldn't have out on the trail. This is some habanero and green chili sausage. And we'll go ahead and continue to cook that. And we're off to the races. I'll come back when this is done and give you my final thoughts on the Kelly Kettle. Okay, I'm back in my rice and beans and sausage. It's just about done. This took about another, I'd say about 12 minutes of cooking, and I've allowed it to start to get thick. It's time for it to come off of there. And it actually, at times, would get a little bit too aggressive on the boil. And I just was picking it up like this and stirring it so that it wouldn't stick to the bottom. And let me show you what I'm going to be eating here. That's better trail food than you usually have. And I know if it's more than, if you're not car camping or whatever, if you're actually out somewhere, you might think you can't take sausage like this. I do have a tip for you. There's a company called Country Boy that makes dry sausages. Of course, I put that down right where the wind's going to blow the ashes into it. But Country Boy makes this dry sausage, and any other dry sausage product like that, has extremely long shelf life even without refrigeration, so you could make that part of an emergency store or for your trail hiking and things like that. This needs to sit a little bit. I guess a couple things here. What have I learned? Number one, the Kelly Kettle's a system, and it's something that you kind of get a rhythm with, and I didn't have my rhythm this time, you could tell. It's so efficient in boiling. Again, boiling 1.7 liters. That's almost a Coke, two big Coke bottles. It's almost a Coke bottle of water. Burning that in 4 minutes and 35 seconds is really lightning fast. And since I only used about half the water to put for the tea and for cooking the beans, when I added more, it went back to a boil in less than 2 minutes. And I had to go ahead and take the pot stand down. So it makes me question how useful the pot stand is unless you're going to be on your first pass utilizing all the water, completely refilling it. I think 4 minutes up there would be worth doing. 2 minutes, it would almost be better to just pour the hot water and mix it up and put it straight onto the grill. Another thing I've learned is putting those little grill things on there. I guess you can get good at it where you can just drop them in there and get it straight on, but it is a little bit difficult. And if you had a Leatherman or something like that, it would be the way to go with it. I wondered when I saw this why they didn't just have fold-away handles. Now I know, one handle for everything that you would pick up, the top, or this could be a little frying pan or a top to that. If you wanted to put something in there, just needed hot water, needed to soak. And since it doesn't stay there, it doesn't get hot. So that's a really great attribute there. The best thing I can see out of this, and let's see how hot it still is, it's not too bad, I'd emptied it out, is it's really best for boiling water. And I mean, that's what it was designed to do. And I'm sure the cooking utilities were kind of an afterthought. Hey, we could do this as well. But this little grill is awesome. Like I said, I think if I was doing this again, what I would have done this time is I would have just added my water to that. I would have set my kettle aside with the cork in it to keep my hot water hot, and I would have went right to cooking on there. Well, you saw everything that went on here, and then I cooked for about 12 more minutes. I've been talking to you for a few more minutes, and there's still a lot of heat there. There's a lot left to that yet, and of course, as you're cooking, you can move your pot off, and you can just add a couple little twigs and whatnot to it as you go. So even though you don't have your big rocket fire going anymore, it's real easy to keep those coals going and keep things on the move. Let's have a taste of this. It's probably still blistering hot. Yeah, it is. See if the rice is done, though, is a big thing. Perfect. Absolutely wonderful. I'll be eating this. This will be my lunch. Nice cup of herbal tea. The Kelly Kettle, great product. I think if anything was inadequate here, it was my use of it. Again, this is my first time. I took it out of the box last night, looked at the instructions, and trying to run the camera by myself and doing a lot of different things instead of just boiling water with it. Again, I learned, and the big thing, guys, when you got this thing running, that spout needs to not be pointed near anybody. When that boiled over the first time, it shot about a 6-inch column of water, and that's about a 1-inch diameter 6-inch column of water, and it shot it for about a good second duration, bloof, you know, and that really could burn somebody. So this is not a hands-off utility. But when you talk about efficiency with boiling water, again, I want you to think about this. You don't have to carry any fuel. You don't have to have any fuel. It's 100% sustainable. Everything that I burned took me about 5 minutes to just pick up from around here. I didn't have to use a knife. I didn't have to use a machete. I didn't have to use a tomahawk. I didn't baton. I didn't do anything. I just grabbed the stuff that was easy to grab and break up. You backpackers, they make one about half of this size. It's an aluminum one, so it weighs less. Again, I'm not big on cooking in aluminum often, but occasionally I don't really see it being that big of a concern. But all of that space that's there, even if you're carrying utensils and all, there's a lot of space in there. It's not lost. You can pack other of your items in there if you guys are backpackers. But I think for me, and what I'm going to rely on this for, is whenever I need to boil water in a time when I don't have electricity. I think it's absolutely perfect for that. I could see myself on any given Saturday waking up and setting that up on my deck with a couple pieces of slate under it, making my coffee with my French press mug. Or in the evening, just boiling a little bit of water, making some tea. It's a great little device. Very, very efficient, very, very environmentally friendly. Where's it come from? Ireland. I think it seems like all these cool things like this are coming from overseas today. I think we Americans need to get on the innovation bandwagon. Last thought on this. I'm impressed with it. We're talking to Kelly Kettle about possibly becoming a reseller for them and bringing this item into our gear shop. One of the cooler things I've ever seen. And again, 1.7 liters of water, 4 minutes, 35 seconds. Say I diddled around with it for 25 seconds, 5 minutes. 1.7 liters of water in 5 minutes. I'm impressed. This has been Jack Spirko with another Survival Podcast video.